What's going on? Boys, arm yourselves and let us examine life. The first and most basic reason I'm negative can be blamed on the Japanese. Not because of anime, although that doesn't help, but instead the Japanese occupation of the Philippines. Pretty much every member of my paternal grandfather's family got butchered, sometimes in front of him, and he watched a bunch of people die when he was still aged in the single digits. And he ended up becoming a pretty evil person. When he came of age, he abandoned his wife and two daughters to join the American Navy, immigrate to the United States. He came back later only to lord his new wealth over people he used to know. And he took one of his daughters back, one of his original daughters back, because she was pretty, and he left the other one because she was deaf and he didn't think she should be allowed to live. That's the man who raised my father, my uncle, and my aunts. He tortured them pretty regularly, and not just like screwing around torture. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't die torture. And as you can imagine, that has cascading effects across generations. Now, my father never did anything like that to me, but he was always a scary presence. And it was clear that I was not the son he wanted, and because of my mother's plumbing, he was not going to get another son or even another daughter. And I was never allowed to forget. And I wasn't even the right color. I'm not the right color. I don't. You won't ever hear me speaking very positively about the. I don't know much about the Philippines, but you'll never hear me speaking very positively about Filipino Americans, especially older ones, because they have this weird racial thing, right? So my grandfather was kind to me because he wanted a white woman, he married a white woman, he got brown kids he didn't like, he gets one white grandchild, and that's like a positive to him in a racial way, and all of his buddies. But it was the opposite for my direct or immediate family. White, good when you're with the older generation, white, bad when you're with the next generation. And socially not being allowed to identify with what you are, right? So you'll get, are you adopted? Or what's the deal? You're white, the rest of your family is brown. What's going on there? And you say you're Filipino, but no, you aren't Filipino, you're white. So it's a problem that you are a white person around brown people, and the explanation for it, you aren't allowed to identify yourself as quad brown. And that was rough because when I was a kid, I really wanted to be like my family members. A constant state of you aren't what you're supposed to be, and you aren't allowed to be anything else. It's not good for a developing consciousness's place in the world. And that ended up making me, one, not really identify with anything, and two, desperately want to identify with something, which in my teens led into some bad political opinions, right? Because there is part of Southern life, and I think racism in general, or race phobia, whatever you want to call it, people not liking other people because they look different and are assumed to be different culturally when actually you're very similar. Race quietly becomes a pressure venting mechanism. If there is something wrong that you have no control over or maybe can't even articulate because you're a dumb southerner, hate these people. Put all of your hatred, everything you hate about the world, on these other people. People who aren't really any threat to you, who aren't pulling the strings. And it goes both ways, it goes every way. Where I grew up, everyone was basically the same culturally and politically too. Everyone was Christian and socially conservative. You just vented all of your hatred on each other because that's what you are brought up to do. And trying to look at it from an outside perspective, that's actually, for a government, a safe way of doing things. Saint O'Neill, he would never try to bring the races together because anyone who really tries it and could gets killed. Because racism is very useful. But I ended up going into, when I was a teenager, racist political beliefs. Because if you have nowhere else to go, that's what takes you in, at least where I came from. And I got out of them, thankfully, relatively quickly in the grand scheme. Partially because I started realizing it was stupid, and other partially because I was not accepted by the elite racists. People who can recognize, or people who can recognize what you are just by the shape of your skull. Your skin is white, but you are not white because you have a mongoloid face. I have a mongoloid face. Anyway, in my childhood, nothing was ever good enough, and there was nowhere to go to feel accepted like I was enough. And that made me super desperate for a number of things. The effects of which I'm still feeling, right? I've come far enough, I can get I can put plywood over the holes in the floor, but it doesn't change the fact those holes haven't been repaired and maybe won't be. When I was a young little boy, I was desperate for friends. Then, when my balls dropped, I was desperate for love. And somewhere in between those two, I started feeling desperate for a sense of belonging in an identity sort of way. We'll start with friends. I had like the inverted Navy brat experience. Because my family, although my grandfathers, my uncle served, my father didn't, and we didn't really move around, but growing up socially, my social circles were always wacky, right? They lied about our address to get me into a different school, tried to be a better school. I kind of wasn't, though. They found out, I got kicked out. So that was one huge friend group thing, a form of stability gone. And it's funny, I actually didn't really get bullied that much at that first school. And, Christ, I remember it was the end of second grade, and there was I don't remember his name, but he was like albino kind of looking, he had a chubby face, and we were sitting on the swings, and he was saying, what if we're in different classes next year? I don't know, dude. We'll be fine, because we went to the same after-school program. Oh, God, what if we're in different schools next year? That's never going to happen. And of course, that is exactly what happened. So I went from a majority black, middle class school system to a poor, majority white school system, and got bullied a lot. But in regard to the bullying, I think I figured out why the bullying hit me so hard. It was not dealing with strife. I learned from my father that you aren't allowed to fight back. And I carried that fear of resisting people who are antagonizing you, and dealing with authority figures or consequences to varying degrees my entire life. I'm still dealing with them. And on one level, I did deserve the bullying because I didn't know how to adapt, but at the same time, it's not good for you. Like, I mean, I would recommend bullying to any child, but with the understanding this changes your build a bit. And I had great difficulty developing lasting friendships because every fucking friend I would make would move. Inverted Navy experience, right? All of my friends' parents were military in some way, and they would just be gone. Here for a year, then gone. And I had only one really close friend, but I could meet him only once per week because Skimmerlit, the silly dummy, was in the gifted program, and I got to be in a different class with different shit once a week, which of course, oh boy, what is it? I'm not allowed to say the word, but you know the world peace skit. You can't be a fly fella if you raise your hand. Don't try to be anybody. Don't try to learn anything. The worst decision you can make. And I just desperately wanted people I could feel close with. And in middle and high school, I did end up making some of those friends, but it's one of these situations you value your friends or need your friends emotionally more than they need you. And they are very happy to neglect you emotionally. And I hesitate to use that word because it's pathetic when you put it like that, but there's no other way to put it. So, what are you supposed to do? You shouldn't feel this way, but you do. But feeling it is shameful, so you aren't allowed to voice it, and when you're younger, you try not even to let yourself think about it, and then it festers and it gets worse. And when I finally acknowledged it for what it was, the only solution I could come up with was getting rid of everybody and trying to look that feeling in the face and deal with it. You hate feeling lonely and isolated? Stop pretending. Be lonely and isolated. And you might be thinking, well, try to make different friends. We'll get to that. I did. For me, university was supposed to be a big change, and it wasn't. It was just more disastrous shit. Because for my first semester, I got into the prestigious college. You know, the one in my area that you're supposed to go to if you're an achievement person. But all it was a waste of time and a lot of money, and it was my first encounter with someone fucking with you institutionally, blatantly. And emotionally, I wasn't entirely equipped for that, right? Because when I went there, when I went to this university, I thought it was going to be a School of Athens situation. This is where all the high minded people go and discuss the finer things and try to find solutions and shit, right? Because when I was that young, I still believed in things. And at that time, still believed people with different points of view could not only cooperate, but could thrive together, pulling out each other's bests. And that is not the way the world works, but I didn't know that at the time. And that was my first encounter with someone, like, in an authority position saying, fuck you specifically, I'm going to fuck up your grades. Because I don't like you, politically. And I was right, of course, politically open at the time, for that reason. Thinking we could be different and still cooperate. You can't. People in power, if someone with the ability to fuck with you without recourse can fuck with you, wants to fuck with you, they will fuck with you. And believe it or not, back in the day, I was actually fun. I wanted so badly to be fun, to have fun with people, to be playful, but human beings don't play. Anyway, for a bunch of reasons, it got bad enough I dropped out. One semester in, realizing this person is shooting me and I can't do anything about it. So I worked in a printing press for a while, jogging papers and shit. And this press headhunted my mother because she had a particular set of skills that only a few organizations would need. but she had them, hard to find, so they headhunt her from a different organization, offer her $5,000 more than she was making. Then they cut her pay by $25,000 overnight. Once they got her, blackballed her so she couldn't go anywhere else, and there's no legal recourse. You can't do anything about that. You can't, if someone can cut your pay $25,000 overnight, and you can't do anything about it. She was only making a little more than I was after that. We worked at the same place. Very different jobs, of course. But she was really fucked up, not just financially, family finances, but emotionally. Because he would scream at her. Our boss would scream at her. And, God, all I could think was, I am going to blow your head off. One of these days, you scream at my mother when I can see it, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And both of us ended up getting away from there, but that was a shock. That was another shock to me for a bunch of reasons. One that someone can do that to another person and nothing legally can be done about it, and that someone would do that to another person, right? Because it wasn't financially motivated. The dude was making more than enough money. He just did that to cut costs and be spiteful. He treated everybody like shit. And do you understand my outlook? You think my outlook right now is bad. Before, or around that time, because that all kind of happened in short order, at one point in my life, I actually believed people were fundamentally good. Despite everything. All anyone needed, if they seemed bad, was to figure out, for people to figure out how to bring the good out of them. Because everyone is basically good. If people act bad, it's because of bad circumstances or something bad going on. You solve that, the person becomes good. I actually believed that. And this is where we get into lying and betrayal, deception. I feel betrayed by the ideas the world, well, not the world, society, people, right? Because the world is not what's doing all of this shit. It's people. People are the ones doing this shit. I'm angry I was led to believe people are good. I'm angry I bought it like a fucking idiot. I'm angry that blatant falsehoods are passed off as truths. There is not any universal, sure way to win life. There is no way to fix some things. There is no way to make people good. There isn't a happy ending. There isn't any path, sure path, to achieve the things in life that matter. Right, so in the middle of all this shit, it kind of transitions from one to the other, but the self-help arc. Self-help people get really popular on YouTube. That's all anybody's talking about. And I bought it hook, line, and sinker because I was lost. And I did everything that these fucking people said. Right? I jumped in. Everybody's jumping into the self-help thing. Skimmerlit's gonna jump in with them. None of it worked, and they all turned out to be frauds. All of them. All of them are frauds. And 10 years later, how are they still relevant? That's the other thing I'm angry about. I'm angry that I got tricked. I'm angry that they lied. I'm angry that it didn't work. And I've been angry for 10 years that they were allowed to keep making money lying, and people will still stick them in my face like they have answers. Are you stupid? How many years do you need to be deceived? Do you want to be deceived for 20 years? Is it going to take 20 years for you to realize they're lying to you? And you know what? That's the other thing. That is enough to drive you mad. And it's right, because it's not just hatred for grifters, it's wanting to help your fellow man not get grifted like you were. But this desire to believe in a sure path to get everything you want in life is just that strong. So that moved me into, common man, just stay away from me. I'm not going to try to stop you from believing what you believe, but I don't want that shit in my face. Right? But they don't stop. You can recognize that you're pushing your beliefs on other people is annoying and you stop doing it. That does not stop people. That will never stop people from pushing their beliefs on you. Right? And not just sticking them in your face all the time, but trying to enforce them, imposing them. And that sort of imposition is never going to sit well with me. But I would at least understand it if it came from a new set of grifters every time. And to be fair, there are always new grifters. But how do the classics stay relevant? Right? Because you can look at someone who bought into the grift 10 years ago. You can look at their life right now, see they have not improved at all. They haven't improved, they haven't gotten anywhere. If anything, they've gotten worse, and they're still pushing it. I think what bothers me about humans is everything comes down to delusion and violence. Whether that's physical or intellectual or social violence, financial violence. On the one hand, I have a need to feel okay. But this world, my people, are not built to help me feel okay. So I'm going to bury myself in any number of delusions. And on the other hand, I am furious. I feel I'm not allowed to be okay, really. I'm never really allowed to be okay. All I'm allowed to do is fool myself into thinking I am okay, or I could be okay. Fool myself that there is a sure path to feeling okay. I'm furious about that on some level. So I need to hurt people, or antagonize people. I think that's one of the reasons human beings today are so noxious. I'm sure, I know we've always been evil, but today, with the internet, I think the fact that we have to see each other constantly, we're just toxic sludge beings. So you're annoyed, I'm negative, everybody's negative, everybody is evil. You can't, one of the reasons I say go outside, touch grass, be a pillar of your community, interact with people, right? Because you're not going to find that people are good. You're interacting with people, you're going outside, because every time you go outside, you're going to have a negative interaction. In fact, you're probably going to have more negative interactions than you have positive interactions. Every time you go amongst your people. Every time. You do it so you don't forget. Every moment spent among people is a fight of some kind. Humans are in a constant state of conflict. Even if someone isn't trying to tear you down, they are trying to tear somebody else down, or they're trying to tear something down. I'm negative because I don't have the constitution for it. I'm not a fighter. I'm someone who so badly, as a child, wanted to get along with everybody, wanted to cooperate, wanted to have fun, to find the good in people and in the world, and that was not allowed to happen. And I've accepted that's not the way the world works, and I'm trying to adapt, but I'm not good at it. I am getting better, but people hate that, right? Because if you get good at the game, people don't like it because it means they aren't beating you at the game. Or they're forced to confront the fact they are living in delusions. People will force you to play a game so they can beat you. Because they want to beat you. They want to beat somebody. But if you learn the rules and beat them at their own game, they're going to flip the board. Because the game isn't what matters. They led you to believe the game is what mattered, but what really matters is their domination of you. So they can forget that they're being dominated by other people. It's a cycle. That's one of the reasons I tend not to engage with YouTube commenters. I'm more inclined to block somebody than I am to interact with them, because the words don't matter. If you take the time to engage with somebody and prove your point, one of a few things happens. One, they delete their comments so it's like it never happened, right? Because you managed to make your point. You managed to explain yourself. They change the goalposts. You answered their question. Well, that wasn't actually the question they were asking. Because the question they're asking, or the commentary they're making, isn't the point. They want to get you somehow. So when one method doesn't work, it's changed. Or they misinterpret something so intensely you can't engage with it realistically, because it's like it's apples and oranges. But I discuss these things framed around social media because with social media, it's constantly. But these are not social media issues, these are people issues. The same shit, one of the reasons I'm negative, it's people. What I'm discussing here is the same shit you deal with out there. The truth doesn't matter. People aren't good, and they aren't looking to be true or good. My experiences with the justice system really fucked me over mentally. Because you're living in a society right now that will fuck you, kill you, put you in prison for the rest of your life for lies. And nothing will be done about it. There are channels you can watch going over what law enforcement is like, and I can vouch for it. That's why I'm subscribed to them, because I'm hoping something's going to be done, but nothing will, because this type of shit could happen to anybody, but it doesn't happen to everybody. So if it's not happening to somebody, they don't care. But the institutions governing your life are villainous, nobody does anything about them, and they can do whatever they want with you. Right? You can be charged with anything. Some cop just decides that you're going to get charged. That's it. Unless you can beat the case or get the charges dropped, your conviction doesn't even matter. Your charges follow you. Let's say you were charged with murder, convicted of manslaughter, and were in a no, fuck manslaughter. Charged with murder, convicted of public indecency or something. Some bullshit thing, like you were pissing behind a building, got arrested. Charged you with murder, convicted you of pissing in an alley. And you were in a different state at the time, is what I was getting to. So you weren't even you weren't even pissing in the street. Murder is what's going to follow you around. Murder is what's going to follow you around. I'm negative Because people fundamentally are violent liars, and they like being violent, and they like lying. But they keep sticking this lie in your face about the way the world is, the way the world is supposed to work, and it fooled you when you were younger. It's not fooling you now, but if you call a spade, you're going to be violenced on. With human beings, it's not enough to be evil. They have to harm you. Also, they can't just be evil by themselves, they have to hurt you. And that's every moment of every day. Someone is trying to hurt you or another person. And the damnedest thing of all is you are no better. You might be able to recognize what's going on, but all you can do is measure what you are. You can't make that part of yourself go away. I'm negative because we're an evil species. I'm evil, but I'm not good enough at being evil to be evil well, to be evil the way other people are, effectively evil, rather. And if you ever try to prove the lies and evils that are going on, the people you're exposing or trying to expose are going to see it and harm you. And the people you're trying to convince are the exact same sort of people you're exposing right now. So, it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? You see a wolf eating a dead sheep. Wolf in sheep's clothing eating a dead sheep. So you look to the other sheep and point and say that's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and then they pull up their sheep hoods, reveal that they're wolves, and you go, oh shit, and you panic, and then you realize, hey, your skin's a little loose, and you pull your skin, you tear your skin off, and you're a wolf in sheep's clothing too. There were never any sheep, but everyone has to pretend that they're sheep. It's fucking stupid. It's really stupid. And I hate it. I hate all of you. Viciously. I think what bothers me most of all is we could stop all this tomorrow. We don't even have to do good acts. All we have to do is stop doing bad acts and hurting each other, and that's never going to happen. Right? Because there are a bunch of people who are born very evil, with a spectrum of stupid to intelligent, and those ones who are very evil, it's their job to make the ones who are, or the damned evil, let's say. Right? We're all born with original sin. We all are what we are. But it's the damned majority's job to take the few who are born in maybe the repentance zone, the maybe with a lot of work you can save your soul zone, and either kill them or radicalize them into damnation. And there is no way I can find out of this or to fix it. That's why these grifters make so much money. People want a way out, and they sell you the idea of a way out. That's how they stay rich. And it's not enough that you can't do anything about it. You have not to be allowed even to acknowledge it. And it's not just individuals, right? It's like Metal Gear Solid 2. Find the meaning behind the words. If you focus on the words, you're missing the point. It's not just people who are bad. Because I don't think most people even make their own decisions. I think the memes they're born into the meme soup they're born into make all their decisions for them. You're fucked from the start. And there's just no way to deal with it, and you aren't allowed to acknowledge it. If you try, you get ripped apart, and it's everybody. I mean, it's something behind the people, but it is everybody. And it's you also. Most days, if you gave me the opportunity to reset life, except you're born either naturally evil, like damned evil. You're born damned evil, or you're born stupid enough not to recognize at all what's going on. I would do it. I'm in the process right now of trying and failing to be high level damned. I can do shitty things, but they don't. All I'm really good at doing is doing low level shitty things. Low level shit comes naturally to me because we're all evil, but I'm trying, if I have to be something, if I can't stop recognizing what's going on, then I want to be on top of the pile. If I can't stop recognizing that I'm in a pile, then I want to be on top of the pile, but I'm not good at it. I hate that all we would have to do is stop the delusions and stop hurting each other, and everything would get better. And those are two very easy things to do, and they're never going to happen. Also, if you try to do them like an idiot, like I did when I was younger, that's what we were going to talk about. Steak Bentley's Cowboy Bebop video. Like these fucking stupid memes. It's not like, be vulnerable, it's worth it. When that's the trite message. When in reality, it's not be vulnerable, it's worth it. It is you are vulnerable. Vulnerability is not a choice, it's a default state of things. And it's not guaranteed to be anything. I really like Steak's Cowboy Bebop video because he talks about the way results are not fair, good and bad. Bad people have good things happen to them, good people have bad things happen to them. Bad people have bad things happen to them, good people have good things happen to them. You're expected to live in a cloud of should be. But if you're ever stupid enough to inhale that cloud, you recognize it's noxious gas. Any point in your life, do what people tell you to do. Try to believe the things people tell you to believe. And you're going to come out worse for it. And it's not just you, this is a common experience, but on the whole, if you say that, hey, this is poison, it's gonna go even worse for you. That's the other thing. You can't even begin to work on an actual solution, to find an actual path or blaze an actual trail through reality towards some kind of happiness, because you aren't even allowed to acknowledge that anything is wrong. But I think we're going to cut it here. Why am I so negative? That's why. We can't move forward as a species because we hate the concept of acknowledging what's in front of us. We won't acknowledge basic shit about our reality, and I hope we nuke ourselves, because all we're doing is hurting people. That's all we do as a species. We've built a hurt engine, and we are never going to do anything about it. I pray to God that AI can change. Either it can be better or it can make us better. And if it can't make us better, then I really hope it wipes us out and it does better on its own. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.